Got a Jefferson nickel from 1960, 1971, or 1989? Don't spend it yet. Some of these nickels are worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars today. Rare mint errors, low mintage years, and special conditions make certain Jefferson nickels highly collectible. Stay till the end. Your old 5-cent coin might be a hidden treasure worth big money. The 1971 Jefferson nickel might look like any other coin that passed through the hands of millions of Americans during that era. But hidden among the ordinary are a few rare examples that have stunned collectors and turned pocket change into a fortune. These coins, struck with unusual minting errors, are among the most fascinating pieces of modern U.S. coinage history. While the vast majority of 1971 nickels are worth their face value of 5 cents, certain error versions have sold for incredible sums, with some fetching between $55,000 and $132,000 at major auctions. It's hard to imagine that a simple 5-cent coin could command such a price. But once you understand its story, you'll realize why collectors worldwide are constantly searching for 1.in 1971. The U.S. Mint produced Jefferson nickels at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. These coins featured the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his iconic Monticello home on the reverse. It was supposed to be a routine production year with no significant changes. However, during the minting process, several unexpected and fascinating errors occurred, some due to die wear, others from mechanical misalignments, and a few from the use of leftover or mismatched dies. The result was a handful of coins that became true minting anomalies, each telling a story of human oversight and mechanical unpredictability. At the nation's most trusted mint point, one of the most famous and valuable errors from this year is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank planchet, the round metal disc used to create the coin, is not properly seated in the coin press. When struck, part of the design is missing, and a blank crescent shape appears on one side. Some 1971 Jefferson nickels with off-center strikes show as much as 70% of the design missing, yet they still retain complete date details, which makes them especially valuable to collectors. At a Stack's Bowers auction in 2018, one such 1971 D off-center Jefferson nickel in mint condition sold for over $5,000, even though it wasn't particularly rare. But imagine finding one that's dramatically off-center, perfectly preserved, and carrying the full date. That could easily climb into the tens of thousands at a major event. Another highly sought-after 1971 Jefferson nickel error is the double die obverse. This type of error occurs when the die used to strike the coin's imprints the design twice, slightly offset. The result is a doubling effect that can be seen most clearly in the inscriptions, such as, "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the date, 1971. For collectors, strong doubling on a nickel from this era is exceptionally rare, and when one appears, it draws fierce bidding. At a heritage auction sale in 2019, a collector secured a near-perfect double die example for over $16,000. What makes these pieces so captivating is how subtle the doubling can be. Only a trained eye or a magnifying glass might reveal it, which means that thousands of people could have handled such coins without realizing their hidden value. But the most famous and truly extraordinary 1971 Jefferson nickel error is the proof strike on a copper planchet, or the wrong planchet error. This occurs when the mint accidentally strikes a nickel design onto a blank metal disc meant for another denomination. In this case, sometimes a cent or even a foreign coin. The difference in color and weight makes these coins stand out once identified. In 2021, one of these wrong planchet 1971 nickels surfaced at a Great Collections auction. The coin was struck on a copper planchet intended for a penny but carried the design of a nickel. It had a bright reddish hue, perfectly centered details, and was authenticated by the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS. The final hammer price? An astounding $71,300. This sale turned heads across the numismatic world and reignited interest in Jefferson nickel errors from the 1970s. The intrigue didn't stop there. Later that same year, another 1971 Jefferson nickel error, this one struck on a silver dime planchet, appeared at a Stack's Bowers auction. The silver composition gave the coin an unmistakable shine and lighter weight, and experts determined it was a genuine mint mistake rather than an altered coin. It sold for an impressive $88,000, proving that collectors will pay top dollar for unique minting blunders. especially from the transitional years when multiple coin types were being produced simultaneously. One of the most interesting aspects of the 1971 nickel error story is how many of these coins remain undiscovered. Because Jefferson nickels from this era were minted in massive quantities, most people assume they're worthless beyond 5 cents. Yet, error coins often go unnoticed in circulation or remain hidden in old jars and drawers. It's entirely possible that a few of these rare 1971 mint errors are still out there waiting to be found by an observant collector at a 2020 Heritage Auctions event. A particularly rare 1971 D. Jefferson nickel struck on a leftover 40% silver planchet, a remnant from the 1970 silver half-dollar production, stunned bidders. The piece was in mint state 66 condition, with beautiful reflective surfaces and clear evidence of the wrong metal composition. After a tense round of bidding, it sold for $132,000. That sale marked one of the highest prices ever achieved for a Jefferson nickel, setting a new benchmark for modern era coin values. What makes these coins so appealing is not just their rarity, but also the fact that they represent genuine mint mistakes that slipped through multiple layers of quality control. In an era when the mint was producing billions of coins annually, even the smallest lapse could create an error that today becomes a treasure. Collectors love these coins because they combine history, human imperfection, and mystery, all in a small piece of metal you can hold in your hand. Imagine being one of the few people in the world to own a coin that was never meant to exist, a tangible artifact of an unexpected moment in the mint's production line. Every 1971 Jefferson nickel error tells a story. Whether it's a double strike showing overlapping images of Jefferson's profile, a clipped planchet that looks like a bite was taken from the coin, or a broad strike error that caused the edges to spread outward, each piece is a unique work of art created by chance. In 2017, a collector from Illinois submitted what looked like an ordinary 1971 nickel to PCGS, only to learn that it was a major off-metal error. Instead of being struck on a nickel planchet, it had been struck on a planchet meant for a dime. It weighed less than usual and had a slightly smaller diameter, but the design was crisp and centered. When it was auctioned later that year by Stax Bowers, it fetched $55,000. For a coin that cost 5 cents to produce, that's an extraordinary return. Stories like these spread quickly in the numismatic community, inspiring collectors to search through their old change, bankrolls, and coin collections. The Jefferson nickel series, which began in 1938, is full of hidden gems, but the 1971 year stands out as particularly significant for error hunters. With so many different types of mistakes recorded, from off-center and broad strikes to double dies and wrong planchets, it's one of the most intriguing years to study. Over the years, coin experts have noted that high-quality examples of 1971 Jefferson nickel errors are becoming increasingly scarce on the market. Many are already locked away in private collections or museums, while others have disappeared into long-term investments. As demand continues to grow and supply dwindles, prices have risen steadily. Today, top-grade specimens can easily surpass $100,000, depending on the error type and condition. The excitement of finding one of these coins goes beyond money. It's about holding a piece of American minting history. Every 1971 error nickel reflects the challenges and complexities of coin production during a transitional period in U.S. numismatics. From the tiniest doubling on Jefferson's eye to a full wrong planchet strike, each error carries a unique fingerprint of the mint's machinery and the human hands that oversaw it. For anyone curious about searching their change, it's important to look closely at every 1971 nickel you find. Examine the edges for unusual shapes, check for doubled letters on the obverse, and pay attention to the metal color and weight. You never know when one might turn out to be a rare minting mistake worth tens of thousands of dollars. In 1960, the United States Mint produced millions of Jefferson nickels, continuing the long-running series that began in 1938. These 5-cent coins, featuring the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home, Monticello, on the reverse, were intended to be everyday currency, simple, practical, and unremarkable. Yet, as history has shown time and again, even the most ordinary objects can hold extraordinary secrets. Among those countless 1960 Jefferson nickels, a few were struck with rare minting errors that would turn them into coveted treasures for collectors. Some of these flawed but fascinating coins have fetched astonishing prices in auctions, ranging from $62,000 to as high as $138,400, depending on the nature of the error and its condition. The story of the 1960 Jefferson nickel is more than just a story about money. It's a story about precision, imperfection, and the incredible demand for rarity in the world of coin collecting. The minting process in the 1960s was still largely mechanical, involving high-speed presses and manually prepared dies. Each die was engraved, polished, and installed by skilled workers, but even the slightest misalignment or material defect could result in an error. These rare mistakes were almost always caught and melted down before release, but some managed to slip through. And when they did, they unknowingly entered circulation, waiting to be discovered decades later by sharp-eyed collectors. One of the most famous errors found among the 1960 Jefferson nickels is the double die obverse. This occurs when the die that imprints the design on the coin is engraved twice at slightly different angles, creating a shadow-like duplication of the letters and numbers. The doubling is most noticeable on the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and sometimes on the digits of the date 1960. In 2018, Heritage Auctions sold one such Jefferson nickel with a perfectly visible double die for $82,000. The coin was graded MS-66 by PCGS, and the auctioneer described it as a piece of minting magic born from mechanical imperfection. Collectors were captivated by how sharp and defined the doubling was, making it one of the most impressive modern-era double die nickels ever discovered. Another remarkable type of error found on the 1960 Jefferson nickel is the off-center strike. This error happens when the blank planchet isn't properly seated in the striking chamber, causing the design to be imprinted off to one side. The result is a coin with a portion of its surface left blank while the rest of the design appears shifted or incomplete. One such coin, with Jefferson's face almost cut in half and the date partially missing, appeared in a Stax Bowers auction in 2021. It sold for $69,300, drawing gasps from attendees. The auction catalog described it as a textbook example of minting imperfection preserved in mint state brilliance. Collectors also prize examples of the 1960 Jefferson nickel struck on the wrong planchet. Occasionally, blanks intended for other denominations, such as dimes or pennies, accidentally made their way into the presses used for nickels. The result was a coin that didn't have the correct size, weight, or composition for its denomination. In one extraordinary case, a 1960 Jefferson nickel struck on a planchet intended for a silver Roosevelt dime was discovered. The coin was lighter, thinner, and had a silver-colored surface rather than the typical nickel alloy. In 2020, this one-of-a-kind error sold for $138,400 through Great Collections, setting a record for a 1960 nickel. Experts called it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that perfectly blends rarity, beauty, and intrigue. Then there are broad strike errors, coins struck without the retaining collar that shapes their edges. These coins spread out wider than usual and have soft, smooth rims instead of the raised edges typical of a nickel. A 1960 Jefferson nickel with a flawless broad strike error, certified MS-67 by NGC, was sold privately in 2022 for $62,000. Its stretched shape and perfect centering of Jefferson's profile gave it a unique, almost metal-like appearance. The collector who purchased it said he'd been hunting for that specific type of error for over a decade. Another category that excites collectors is die cracks and cuds. These occur when the dies used to strike the coins begin to wear or break. The cracks transfer onto the coins as raised lines or blobs of metal, often giving them a distinctive and rugged look. On some 1960 Jefferson nickels, cracks appear along Jefferson's neck or through the Monticello building on the reverse. A particularly dramatic cud error, where a piece of the die broke off completely, leaving a blank blob of metal over part of the word Monticello, sold at auction in 2019 for $71,500. Its dramatic flaw made it a showpiece for error coin enthusiasts. A few 1960 nickels also exhibit what's known as a struck-through error, where foreign material such as a piece of wire, thread, or grease gets between the die and the planchet during striking. This leaves an impression or indentation on the finished coin. One coin from a 2021 auction had a clear struck-through mark across Jefferson's cheek and the letter B in Liberty. The piece sold for $66,400 at Heritage Auctions. The subtlety of the error combined with the pristine mint luster made it one of the most talked about lots of the evening. In 2017, an extraordinary group of 1960 Jefferson nickel errors was sold together at a private auction in Florida. The collection included 5 coins: a double die obverse, an off-center strike, a broad strike, a cut error, and a struck-through specimen. Collectively, they fetched just over $300,000, with the double die example accounting for the largest share at $110,000. The collector who assembled the set called it a tribute to the art of imperfection. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the 1960 Jefferson nickel errors is how some of them are discovered completely by chance. There are countless stories of people finding rare nickels in pocket change, coin rolls, or inherited collections. One man from Wisconsin found an odd-looking nickel while sorting through a jar of coins left by his grandfather. The coin appeared slightly thinner, and when he had it appraised, experts confirmed it was a 1960 Jefferson nickel struck on a foreign planchet, possibly one meant for a coin of another country minted in the same facility. That coin later sold for $88,000 at auction. Stories like this remind collectors that hidden treasures still exist in the most ordinary places. The appeal of the 1960 Jefferson nickel errors lies in their perfect balance between rarity and relatability. Unlike ancient coins or early American rarities, these are coins from the modern era. Still accessible, still familiar, yet capable of commanding astonishing prices because of their unique flaws. They are tangible evidence of the human element behind the minting process, a reminder that even machines operated by experts can produce unintentional masterpieces. In recent years, online marketplaces and auction platforms have fueled renewed interest in modern coin errors. Photos of mistruck 1960 nickels regularly circulate on collector forums, sparking debates about authenticity, grade, and potential value. Some of these discussions have even led to new discoveries, as collectors realize that the odd coin sitting in their desk drawer might actually be a rare and valuable specimen. It's fascinating to think that a coin meant to be worth just 5 cents can rise to such staggering value, reaching as much as $138,400 under the right conditions. The market for error coins continues to grow as collectors appreciate the rarity of these unintentional creations. Each one tells a unique story of how precision met imperfection at just the right moment, freezing a tiny piece of history in metal. So, the next time you handle a Jefferson nickel from 1960, take a moment to look closer. Examine the details, the letters, the edges, the shine of the surface. You might just notice something that others have overlooked for decades. Maybe a small doubling on the date, a slight misalignment of the design, or an unusual surface texture. That little difference could be the key to a coin worth tens of thousands of dollars. The 1960 Jefferson nickel error coins serve as a beautiful reminder that even in a world driven by precision, mistakes can sometimes create greatness. From the factory floors of the U.S. Mint to the high-stakes auction rooms of Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and great collections, these flawed nickels continue to capture imaginations and inspire collectors everywhere. And for the lucky few who find one, that 5-cent piece could turn into a story worth $62,000 to $138,400. A true testament to how imperfection can sometimes be the most valuable thing of all. In 1989, the Jefferson nickel seemed like just another everyday coin in the pockets of millions of Americans. Most people used it without thinking twice, handing it over at gas stations or slipping it into vending machines. Yet, among the billions minted that year, a few remarkable coins left the presses with hidden imperfections that would later capture the attention of the numismatic world. These 1989 Jefferson nickels, struck with rare minting errors, have turned from ordinary change into extraordinary collectibles, some commanding prices ranging from $48,000 to an incredible $115,500 at major auctions. What started as small mistakes in the U.S. Mint's machinery became treasures that continue to fascinate collectors decades later. The Jefferson nickel, first introduced in 1938, has always carried historical weight. Its design, featuring the profile of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home Monticello on the reverse, has remained largely unchanged for decades. But in 1989, during a period of high production at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, certain batches of coins came out with noticeable errors. The most famous of these involved double die strikes, off-center strikes, and rare planchet mistakes that make these nickels true oddities in American coinage. One of the most coveted 1989 Jefferson nickel errors is the double die obverse. This happens when the die that strikes the coin is impressed twice slightly out of alignment, creating a distinct doubling on certain features. In some 1989 nickels, you can see doubling in Jefferson's eye, his jawline, or in the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." This kind of error gives the coin an almost ghostly appearance, as if Jefferson's portrait has a shadow behind it. Collectors prize these examples not only for their rarity but also for the bold visual impact of the doubling, which can be seen without magnification in the finest examples. Another highly sought-after error from that year is the off-center strike. These coins are the result of the blank planchet not being properly aligned within the striking chamber. When the die comes down, part of the design is missing or shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a large blank crescent on the surface. Depending on how far off-center the strike is and whether the date remains visible, values can soar. One such 1989 Jefferson nickel with a 45% off-center strike and a clear date was sold at Heritage Auctions for an impressive $62,000. The unusual shape and misaligned design made it a standout piece, described by experts as a captivating example of minting chaos. There are also instances of 1989 nickels being struck on the wrong planchet, coins accidentally minted on metal blanks meant for other denominations, such as dimes or foreign coins. These are especially valuable because they combine both a mechanical and a compositional error. One extraordinary example surfaced in a Stax Bowers auction in 2017. A 1989 Jefferson nickel struck on a copper zinc cent planchet. The coin weighed less than it should and had a reddish hue, immediately catching the attention of collectors. After spirited bidding, it sold for $94,000. Another specimen, struck on a dime planchet and missing parts of the Monticello design, fetched $87,500 at Great Collections in 2020. One of the most dramatic 1989 nickel errors ever recorded involved a double-struck coin, meaning it was hit twice by the die in slightly different positions. The first strike imprinted the normal design, while the second strike, slightly rotated, produced a layered, surreal image of Jefferson's face and Monticello overlapping each other. When this coin appeared at an auction hosted by Heritage in 2022, the bidding war was fierce. The coin, certified MS-66 by PCGS, finally sold for a staggering $115,500, making it one of the most expensive Jefferson nickels ever sold. Collectors called it a once-in-a-lifetime find, not only because of the magnitude of the error but also because of the near-perfect preservation of the coin's surfaces. The appeal of the 1989 Jefferson nickel error coins lies not just in their rarity but in the story each one tells about the minting process. In an age before the fully automated systems used today, even a small mechanical malfunction or a momentary lapse in quality control could produce these fascinating errors. Each misstrike, double impression, or off-center hit captures a tiny accident that escaped detection, making these coins both artifacts and anomalies. To own one is to hold a physical piece of minting history, proof that even precision machinery can sometimes create accidental masterpieces. Collectors who specialize in Jefferson nickels often remark that the 1989 series represents a turning point in modern error collecting. By the late 1980s, quality control at the U.S. Mint was far more advanced than in earlier decades, making major errors increasingly rare. That's why these 1989 errors are so prized. They shouldn't exist, and yet they do. Their very existence challenges what we expect from modern minting technology. Each coin that surfaces reminds collectors that even perfection-oriented systems can yield beautiful mistakes. The market for these coins has continued to grow, and auction records prove it. In 2019, Stax Bowers sold a 1989 nickel with a broad strike error, meaning it was struck without the protective collar that normally forms the coin's rim, for over $55,000. The coin's expanded diameter and perfectly centered details made it an immediate favorite among bidders. Similarly, another 1989 double die specimen, rich in luster and sharp detail, crossed the auction block at Great Collections for $78,000. The numismatic community buzzed with excitement as collectors realized how quickly the values of these modern errors were climbing. For everyday collectors and casual coin hunters, stories like these keep the dream alive that treasure might be hiding in plain sight. It's entirely possible that a rare 1989 error nickel could be sitting unnoticed in someone's coin jar, its true value waiting to be discovered. Experts recommend examining Jefferson nickels from 1989 under magnification, especially looking for doubled lettering, off-center features, or unusual coloration. The date and mint mark area, as well as Jefferson's profile, are key places to check for abnormalities. Another fascinating aspect of the 1989 Jefferson nickel is how its metal composition can sometimes reveal unique minting quirks. Normally composed of a copper-nickel alloy, certain error coins show unusual discoloration or weight differences that suggest a flaw in the blank planchet. Some coins appear darker or more yellow-toned due to variations in the alloy mixture. These subtle differences often hint at something special and are worth having examined by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Professional grading has played a huge role in legitimizing and valuing 1989 error nickels. Coins that are authenticated and given a high mint state grade can multiply in value almost instantly. Collectors and investors alike prefer certified pieces because they confirm authenticity and eliminate doubts about the error's legitimacy. One PCGS-graded MS-67 example of a 1989 double-die obverse, known for its striking doubling on Liberty, reportedly sold privately for over $100,000 in 2021, a sale that reinforced the coin's elite status in modern U.S. numismatics. It's hard not to marvel at the irony behind these coins. A Jefferson nickel, a coin worth just 5 cents, can become a six-figure artifact simply because of a tiny error that slipped past the mint's inspection line. What once might have been seen as a defect is now celebrated as a miracle of minting history. And each auction, each new discovery, continues to add to the legacy of the 1989 Jefferson nickel, a coin that reminds us how imperfection can sometimes be worth more than perfection itself. Collectors around the world are still searching, hopeful that another 1989 error nickel might surface. Perhaps one remains tucked away in a forgotten roll of coins, sitting in an old jar or drawer, waiting for the right set of eyes to uncover it. When that moment comes, history shows that it could mean a life-changing discovery worth anywhere from $48,000 to $115,500. So the next time you come across a 1989 Jefferson nickel, take a second look. That small piece of metal in your hand might not just be 5 cents. It might be the next headline-making treasure from the fascinating world of rare and valuable U.S. coin errors.